Senate's a second look at their case, narrowly passed in the state Senate last week. The bill applies to people who've served 15 years or more of their sentence. It would allow them to ask a judge to reevaluate their case to see if their sentence could be reduced. The judge would look at the inmate's history to see what they've done to better themselves while incarcerated, and then it's up to the judge to decide what happens next.
Tonight, there's renewed efforts here in Virginia to give those with long prison sentences a second chance.
Yeah, there's growing support for legislation making its way through the General Assembly, but not everyone is on board with this.
Redemption can be real. We have to acknowledge that people sometimes make mistakes and they can be rehabilitated.
The second look bill would allow people to petition a court if they have a long prison sentence, giving them the possibility at a revised sentence. Virginia got rid of discretionary parole in 1995. Not all inmates qualify to petition to the Virginia Parole Board currently. State Senator Creed Deeds says the bill will allow more people the chance to get out through the court and not a parole board.
And have them review the sentence and look at the person, not for who they were when they committed the offense, but really who they have become today.
But for Tammy Duffy, the bill opens up deep wounds about her daughter's death. Her daughter, Caitlin, was killed in 2017 by an intoxicated man in Virginia Beach. Duffy has actively sought against the bill since 2021.
This bill, if it becomes law, would greatly impact us, but also for every other victim that's out there. If this bill became law, he would absolutely have a second look, potentially get out in 15 years instead of the 47. And the last time that we saw anything about him, he showed no remorse.
She says it re-victimizes victims, making them relive the pain again. Attorney General Jason Miyares calls this bill backdoor parole.
We're allowing people that have if you're in prison for more than 15 years, there's a chance that not only have you committed a violent act, but you've also have a record. Not only just to ignore the victims, we're also talking about the fact that these individuals can get back in society.
The Virginia Senate narrowly passed a bill today that would legalize medically assisted death in Virginia. The House is expected to take up a vote next week.
For Barbara Green, each day is a gift. While she's feeling well today, with a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer, she knows the end is coming.
I would like to know that when things get too bad, my doctor can hand me a medication that will maybe hasten my death by a few days.
Legislation making its way through the Virginia legislature would allow patients with a terminal diagnosis and less than 6 months to live the option to request life-ending medication. Catholic bishops Barry Nestout of the Diocese of Richmond and Michael Burbidge of Arlington released a joint statement this week saying, "Assisted suicide facilitates tragedies and makes the most vulnerable even more vulnerable. Legalizing it would place the lives of people with disabilities, people with mental illnesses, the elderly, and those unable to afford health care, among others, at heightened risk of deadly harm."
I think there's a hazard to passing this bill.
As a doctor in Northern Virginia, John Paul Verderesi says a bill supporting medically assisted deaths would create even more grave consequences.
I think once we introduce this as an option for treating somebody, it could lead down to paths that we just don't want to go down.
He argues there are already other methods in place to care for someone at the end of their life. But a Virginia bill that recently advanced in the Senate Tuesday would give patients that choice. If passed, a dying patient could be prescribed a controlled substance to end their life in what supporters call a humane and dignified manner.
I think the problem is when you introduce physicians and other healthcare providers into this act, I think it creates a conflict of interest, so to speak. So this has now become a treatment that can be abused.
Today, the Virginia House approved an assault weapons ban on a party line vote. The debate on the House floor waged by two military veterans, one sponsoring an assault weapons ban bill, another firmly opposed to new restrictions. Fairfax County Democratic Delegate Dan Helmer's bill would end the sale and transfer of assault firearms manufactured after July 1st, 2024. It also prohibits the sale of certain large capacity magazines.
This bill would stop the sale of weapons similar to those I and many of the other veterans carried in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Helmer reminding lawmakers of mass shootings across this country in which assault-style weapons were used.
Our schools, our community centers, our college campuses, our nightclubs, and our shopping malls are not war zones. At least they shouldn't be.
Arguing against the measure, Culpeper area Republican Delegate Nick Freitas. He was a Special Forces weapons sergeant in Iraq. He says the focus of legislation should be criminals, not guns.
If you take a weapon and you put it on a desk and you don't touch it, nobody gets assaulted. People do assault other people. And that should be the sort of crime that we're actually going after. But again, we're going after inanimate objects.
And while the bill does not impact assault weapons manufactured before July 1st, 2024, it does prohibit younger Virginians, those under age 21, from owning, selling, or transferring assault weapons, regardless of the manufacture date.
This is punishing people who believe they have a Second Amendment right to own firearms.
It is our obligation to ensure we don't have weapons of war on our streets.
It passed along party lines in a 21-19 vote, but not before a heated debate on the floor.
If this bill is passed, how do we get the guns from the criminals that don't care about laws?
What this bill will do is reduce the number of firearms that are introduced to our streets, and by doing that, we will keep these firearms out of the hands of people that intend to do evil with them.
Senate Bill 99 also deals with assault-style weapons and makes it illegal to open carry a semi-automatic firearm in public.
When they see these things in public, they're worried that it's going to be the next mass shooting. And the only reason to carry one of these things around in public is not for self-defense. It's not to protect your home. It's to try to scare people.
It's our God-given right to protect ourselves, our family, our children. It's a constitutional right.
Can the senators cite to me where in the Bible it talks about AR-15s, assault rifles, or for that matter, guns?
That bill passed on Tuesday in a 21-19 vote. Now there's one final firearm bill the Senate also passed this week. Senate Bill 57 will make it illegal to bring a gun into any restaurant that sells alcohol, even with a concealed carry permit. These bills now head to the Democrat-controlled House, where they are expected to pass.
I think that all government is a waste of taxpayer money.